Apollo 13 flight controllers, listen up. Give me a go, no go for launch. Booster.
Go.
Retro.
Go.
Vital.
We're go flight.
Guidance.
Guidance go.
Surgeon.
Go flight.
Ecom.
We're go flight.
GNC.
We're go.
Telmu.
Go.
Control.
Go flight.
Procedures.
Go.
Inco.
Go.
FAO.
We are go.
Network.
Go.
Recovery.
Go.
Capcom.
We're go flight.
Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome once again to the Tothmonra RoR Podcast. It's been a while, back since May, since we did the previous podcast, episode 44, and there are different reasons for why it took so long to get here, but we are here, and that's what matters. So once again, to help promote and preserve the message of Tothmonra, I am back, and if you want to be a part, just join up as we launch into another podcast about all things Return of Reckoning. And if you think the music's too loud, let me know. But this thread, why stay on Return of Reckoning after level 15, I thought interesting, which is why I put it in here. But the guy makes a number of comments about the progression. In Tier 1, I really felt like I was playing the old official servers again. It was really fun, whether RVR or scenarios. Tier 1 is a fleshing out process. That's where you figure out what classes you want to play, which ones are the most fun, and which ones you want to try to stick with. That's what Tier 1's for. But he's right. He then goes on to say, I passed level 15, and that is when the fun ended.
Your days of finger banging old Mary Jane Rottencrotch through her pretty pink panties are over.
That's pretty much how it is. Once you come out of Tier 1, your days of having fun are kind of over to one degree or another. But he says, then I passed level 15, and that's when the fun ended. Yep. The OP goes on to speak of the boaster mechanic in SCs, I should say, but I wish to focus on the subsequent comments. Here he says, I saw that as a deliberate choice, but how can you keep players who want to level up via PvP if you don't offer them anything to progress? And then he uses the three most reviled words on the entire server. while having fun. While having fun. How can you keep players who want to level up if you don't offer them anything to progress while having fun? Those last 3 words, man. Fun is a relative term, I suppose. But they are the most important 3 words in the entire thread, I thought. Because the OP isn't the only player currently talking about the variable fun factor of Return of Reckoning. There were guys today, earlier in the stream, when I first logged on, there was an argument going on in Tier 4 chat about this very issue. Why the game is no longer fun. Why the server is now dead. They kept saying it's dead and useless. And they were arguing back and forth about that today in Tier 4 chat. Anyway, in Tier 1 you can go full PvP and have fun, which is not at all the case for me in Tier 2 Plus. All of us have faced this. And it's progressed differently over the years, right? It's progressed differently over the years. Into how painful the leveling process is. And I understand what the guy's talking about. I think all of us who played the game do. But what has stagnated the game, well, let me read this first. The game no longer supports nor rewards individual effort. Alright, I'll come back to that. What stagnates the game is that all of this has led to the blob, but I'll come back to that. Individual effort. Now, for those of you who may be familiar with my body of work on YouTube, the videos that I published, and he says specifically the casual solo-minded players, my videos on Return of Reckoning go back to 2016. That's when I published the first one. And you can watch them and see exactly how I leveled, how I played the game. And it's all still up if anybody cares. And if you were to watch some of my older videos, what you would see is aside from doing scenarios, I leveled running solo in 1v1s, 1v2, small scale stuff. That's what I did because that's where the most fun was. That's when the game, I always thought, that's where the game truly shined, is on the small scale. The 1v1 and small scale. This cosmic blob that you see here, you can have your moments with this. You can have your moments with it, but it tires easily. These type of back and forth fights that you see going on here in Land of the Dead. And the server is specifically, and this will actually come up later in the podcast, where I quote Wargrimner from a few years back. That'll come up a little bit later. But the majority of the changes that have gone on over time has specifically, and I think by design to one degree or another, has specifically been designed to discourage solo play, discourage small scale play. And the result is the blob that we have today. Go leech in a Tier 4 warband. That's now not how you progress in a PvP game. Well, that's how you progress in this one. I understand where this guy's coming from, man. Go leech in the Tier 4 warband. That's not how you progress in a PvP game. It is if you're playing Return of Reckoning nowadays, and it's one of those aspects of the game that doesn't sit well with me, and it never has, and there are others. I'm not the only one, it's not like I'm the only one that feels this way, but the blob consumes all. I've talked, Tothmonra and I have talked about that on a number of occasions. So has Tosh. Tosh has been there, and he goes on to, but the OP goes on to say the appeal of the server disappears completely after level 15. Okay. Here I disagree a little bit. A lot of what has gone on, to summarize again, a lot of the changes that have happened over time have been to discourage solo and individual play. and even to one degree or another discourage like 6-man play, although 6-man play is still viable. Then he says, or he asks, are you planning to do anything about this? Are you planning to do anything about this? Yeah. The answer is no. I mean, the short answer is no. But we have a system in place now that goes beyond just making it difficult for people coming out of Tier 1 and trying to level in Tier 2. It's not that it's difficult. It needs to be difficult to a degree. And that's not my complaint, that coming out of Tier 1 is hard. It's that it's harder to level now than it used to be. My complaint is the manner in which you have to do that. The most effective manner in which you have to level. And that's the same thing this guy's talking about. The manner in which you have to level is to join the blob and fight the back and forth battles in Prague, or Eotane, or Calidor. Oh my god, man. This is a response that he got leveling as Quick Dev has said. Average time to 4040 is 40 hours. Average time to 4060 is 100 hours. I suppose that could be true, but again, that's not the point. The point is, okay, you spend 60 hours or 100 hours in the game, and you get to level 60. How did you really enjoy doing that? Okay, that's the issue. Did you really enjoy doing that? And the system as it's set up right now degrades from the enjoyment factor of playing the game. The server is set up entirely for 2-2-2 and organized groups. You cannot play without them, in my opinion. It's a bullying simulator. I wanted to get this comment here specifically. This is, again, someone who replied in that same thread. It's a bullying simulator. And I never would have thought that phrase, that metaphor. That's not a metaphor I would have ever thought of, a bullying simulator, but I think it's valid. I think it's valid. In many aspects, it is. It can be interpreted that way. And I realize also that I'm looking through this through rose-tinted glasses in one sense, in that I remember the days when you could run around on your own and have fun, find fights, be successful, level, get renown, gold, whatever, man. Whatever you were after, it was all out there for the taking. I miss those days in the server, and I'm sorry to see the direction that RVR combat has taken, the RVR zones has taken. And that, again, that's what the OP is talking about. That once you get out of Tier 1, you're in a completely different world. By the way, this is a video from a movie entitled 3 O'Clock High. If you've never seen it, I would suggest looking it up. All right, next segment.
No, please! Oh, give me a hand!
Oh, boys!
No, I'm a victim of circumstance!
I'll circumstance you.
Those morons.
Those morons, that's right. Degradation of average player skill. Why the scenario system rework is urgently needed. And I use that particular intro because that's the underlying feel of this thread. Is that the average player skill is gone. Not gone, but it's been degraded to a point where this guy thinks that the game is lacking because there are no good opponents left to fight. The game simply no longer cultivates individual player skill. His approach, as opposed to the last guy that we were talking about, this guy's approach is that because the scenario system has been gutted to the level that it has, and that most people, or a lot of people, I should say, a lot of people who no longer play scenarios because of some of the accumulated changes that have been made to them, changes that we've talked about in previous podcasts, like the barriers being put in, champions being removed are sent so far back that they're irrelevant anyway. And other individual changes to individual scenarios, like High Pass Cemetery, that's I swear, man, it's almost like in High Pass Cemetery, if you play it, it's almost like the devs are giving everybody the middle finger when they changed the way that one works anyway. In both cases, you were easy picking for the blob, pre-mage, or even other enemy soloers due to lacking in gearing, mechanical, and also proper positioning knowledge. Okay, now this guy's actually talking about the same thing the previous guy was. That once you come out of Tier 1, you get into Tier 2, even once you pass 40-40. Even once you pass 40-40. The opposition that you're going to find is not worth fighting, is his basic point. Because they don't know what they're doing. And it says right here, he mentions lack of, mechanical and also proper positioning knowledge. Alright. If you were watching the stream earlier, I was on my Witch Elf and I was in a Talabek Dam. I think it was the first SC that I played. And I was in Talabek Dam, and I thought the other Destro guys that were in there, I was like, what, I had to question myself. Who the hell are these guys, man? I had 3 healers in my 6-man party, and I don't think I got, and the only one of them that were healing was a Chamois, and there was a Chosen, and Chosen wasn't guarding anybody. At the beginning of the scenario, they went out and went to the barrel, but nobody picked it up, the bomb, nobody picked it up. And then 2 order guys showed up, and they scattered like ants. And I'm thinking, what, and this is, I could put all this video up because it happened earlier in the stream. But, and on many occasions you will have people that you either fight or fight with that apparently just don't really know what they're doing. Now, I don't get all mad about that because this is a game. Okay? And games are meant to be fun, and over time, if people stick with it, they'll learn. But anyway, the guy goes on to say you can either give up and quit the game because you're no longer having fun, and a lot of people have taken that route. Our retention rate for new players around here is like between 10 and 15%, which is no way to grow a server. But anyway, you can give up and quit the game because you're no longer having fun. And like I said, a lot of people have done that, and I think the overall fun factor, like I said a little bit ago, has degraded over time simply as a result of the whole blob mechanic. And or you could try joining ORVR war bands. Well, that's a catch-22 for me, at least. I know others will disagree, but this is actually a good background video to have. This is an ORVR fight from 2017 that I put in one of my earlier videos, and one of those occasions that actually was in a warband. This was a good fight. But what this guy's talking about is that, again, because of the player skill has degraded, people stick with the blob because it's the most effective means to stay alive and win fights, to get the renown, the crest, and therefore the next step in that logical chain is that the players, as a general rule, are not as competent as they once were, because they don't need to be. Okay, they don't need to be. And he also makes the point that scenarios used to be a training ground, and he's right about that. He's absolutely right about that. Scenarios were a great training ground and can be a great training ground to help people learn their characters once they get past 40-40 and the different specs and all that. And I've said before that, again, as a general rule, it doesn't matter what class that you're playing, you don't really become effective, truly effective, until you reach 40-60. because once you reach 4060, you can start playing around with a lot of different specs, and you can be competitive on a number of levels. And he goes on to say, winning against other smaller groups on their own. This includes chasing down anything between solos and 6-man groups. I spent a lot of time on that topic once before, chasing down solos with an entire war band. That, you know, the horse shit that happens there sometimes. But the two threads that I've referenced so far are two guys talking about the same issue, just in different ways. The second guy here has led with the fact that because scenarios have degraded, that people don't know what they're doing at the same levels that they once did. It leads to hugging the blob and just sort of massing to run in PvP. And he also talks about PV during zones, you know, which happens. It happens a lot more now than it used to, that's for sure. But his primary point is because scenarios have been treated the way they have, there's so few people playing, they are no longer training grounds that they used to be, and thus the overall level of play on the server has degraded. And I agree, if you never improve yourself, you unfortunately cannot find much fun in PvP besides beating on easy or outnumbered targets. I'm going to say something that might get me in trouble, but beating on easy or outnumbered targets, that should be the motto for Benny Talax, man. You know, that should be their guild motto. But they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones that are always sort of looking for the path of least resistance. I always kind of liked, you know, the path of resistance versus the path of least resistance in this game, because if you get the most fun you can have playing this game, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the most fun you can have playing this game is getting into a fight that you shouldn't win and winning it anyway. And when you walk away from that, you feel like, okay, the game has actually provided me exactly what I wanted. A chance to beat individuals or other groups that are at least as competitive and viable as I am. All right. The downfall of this is the OP saying this. The downfall of scenarios has consistently stripped the player base of the best self-improvement tool the game had to offer for players who do not have the proper support of a guild or community. Again, I agree. This is his primary point, that scenarios were like training sessions in one regard, where you learned how to fight against, you know, you might not be outnumbered in a scenario. It happens every now and then, but you know, the numbers are typically even. But the quality of play that you go up against, if you want to win, sometimes you have to adapt. You have to think. You have to figure out another way to do what it is you're trying to do. And scenarios were great training grounds. And his point, and again, especially as he said, if you don't have proper support of a guild or community, scenarios was a way for you to go out and learn how to play your tune to its maximum potential. With that, I agree. And I also agree with the notion that because of some of the changes that have been made in scenarios, they've taken the fun out of playing them. And I was talking about this early when I was playing scenarios on my Witch Elf just a little while ago, that the system is set up, and as I'll show here later in the podcast, it was intentionally set up that way to when you queue solo or you queue as a 2-man or 3-man or whatever, if you queue on a pug basis, it's going to put you up against the pre-mates if they're out there. And I've tested this live on stream sometimes when I was playing my Witch Elf one night and we kept going up against, you know, like this double order pre-made. So eventually I switched sides. I went to my White Lion and started queuing scenarios, and I never saw any of those guys again on order. I never saw any of them. Instead, I was up against the Destro pre-mains. And a lot of people have been saying for a long time, why do you do that? Why don't you make the system so that it puts the pre-mains against the pre-mains? And one of the answers is to punish the solo players, to punish the small-scale players. That's exactly why it was done. The other reason is was to try to help promote ranked scenario play. Back when ranked scenario play was actually a thing. It's, I queue for ranked a lot. I never get one. And the law of averages states that if people were queuing for ranked, eventually I would get in one just because I was queuing. And that you want to call it the law of probability or what, the probability supports the fact that if I queue often enough, I should get one. If anybody else is queuing, I never get one. So the idea of changing the scenario play to help promote a format that is all but dead, I won't say it's completely dead, but it's all but dead, again, doesn't make sense. And you would think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would think that the overall impetus of changes to the game would be geared to benefit the player base at large, geared to benefit the majority of the player base as opposed to a chosen few, to a particular segment. And I have felt for many years, again, that is not the way the system runs. That the system runs where it's geared for the minority. The changes that are made, the implementations that are made, are done at the behest of and to the benefit for a certain segment of the player base, and everybody else has just sort of been, carried along. All right, the OP continues. In my eyes, having a working and fair scenario system should be the number one development priority for the game, since it directly influences the average player's skill and quality. Again, I kind of wish there was somebody else here to debate this point, but I agree with the guy. A working and fair scenario system should be the number one development priority. Number one, maybe that's, I might phrase that as a higher priority than it is. And I say that because it's not, as players, it's just players on the server. It isn't our place to tell the devs what to do. And as devs, considering the conditions they're working under, it isn't their place to do everything that the player base asks. Selections do have to be made, I understand that. Priorities do have to be set. But the other side of that coin is that if you have a large segment of the player base, a majority of the player base, saying this right here, talking about this, and a lot of people are, okay, then it should get someone's attention, right? It should get someone's attention. And changing the scenario system, to me, even though I'm not a coder, it seems like it would be easy enough as a coder. Take a scenario like Serpent's Passage, with the stupid barriers that were put up. Same thing with High Pass Cemetery. If you can put the barriers in, you can take them out, right? If you moved the guards, you can move them back. That just strikes me as perfectly logical, right? So if the majority of the player base is asking for something to be done, one of two things, in my opinion, even given all the stuff about the devs are working for free and they're all salt of the earth and the greatest guys alive and all that other stuff. Make all their own clothes, I hear anyway. But even given all those factors that they are working for free and are trying to accomplish stuff based on their priorities, even given all that, it just seems right and natural, I suppose, that if you have a majority of the player base that are talking about and asking for one particular area to be addressed, that you should give that a little attention. And one of two things has to happen. Either you fix it, or you at least come out and talk and say, okay, here we understand, we hear what you're saying, we hear what you're saying, G, but we're not going to bother, and here's why. Okay? That seems simple enough to me. I like this video. This was stuff on my Swordmaster. See, this is all the solo stuff I was doing at the time, and that's why I put this video in, because I knew I would be talking about the solo player world, the solo experience, as opposed to the blob experience. And I can't imagine. I find it hard to imagine that when it comes to running in the blob, that anybody would think that it's, that's where the fun of the game is. Running in the frackin' blob, as opposed to doing stuff like this. Right? A 1v1 with a Chosen, and I've been in a lot of 1v1s with Chosen on my Swordmaster. And I haven't won all of them, but I have been in the majority of the fights that I've been in. 1v1 against Chosen were all fun. Same thing with Marauders. I haven't won every fight that I've gotten into, but I've won a majority of them, because on my Swordmaster I have the title for killing over 10,000 Chosen, 10,000 Choppas, 10,000 Witch Elves, 10,000 Docs, and 10,000 Marauders. So anyway, back to the thread for a moment. The OP garnered many responses. Let's talk about a couple of those for a moment. But I wish to focus on this one response I want to focus on. Come on. It's got to come up. Here we go. One guy replied, "It needs to happen as soon as possible because the game is degrading in quality day to day. And there unfortunately exists a point of no return, in my opinion." Okay. Is that true? A point of no return? The short answer is yes, because that applies to any entity, such as Return of Reckoning, any organization, or any project that you're attempting to promote. If you start going down a road that a lot of people have an issue with and take issue with, and keep asking to be, if you just keep going down the same road, then yeah, eventually you cross a point of no return. And you'll have enough players leave the server that those you have left will just consist of nothing more than the diehards, those that will play this game until the second coming, right? And that's who you'll have left on the server to play. Now, I've said before, and Toth is still still listening. He's heard me. We talked about this specifically ourselves, and I've said before that I think that that's probably exactly the case. That there's a group of players. There are a group of players that exist on the server that will be here no matter what. And the server population could go down to those 200 guys, and the server would still function. The server would still be here, but it would have 200, 300 players, whatever that number is, And that would be it. Is that going to happen? I think it's certainly possible. It's certainly possible that would be the case. And it would be because that other part of the player base that is here because they like the Warhammer world. It is here because this is a great game. They're here because this is a fun game to try to win at. And it is. That's what's kept me here all these years. Is that this is a challenging game. It's a fun game to win at and try to win at. And if that is taken out of the game, if that aspect of the game is removed, then yeah, you're going to see an exodus like you're going to see an exodus like Exodus, if you get that reference. But will the server die? I don't think so, but there just won't be many people playing anymore. And I think this whole question, and it's going to come up again after the lightning round. It's going to come up again. But this whole question of the fun factor in the game has to be addressed. Or the powers that be need to come up and say, you guys just shut the fuck up. We don't, we're not going to, we're going to do what we're going to do. And, all right, when it comes to this place, temptation is the devil looking through a keyhole. Yielding is opening the door and letting him in. I forget now why I put this quote in here. I guess the temptation to... actually, I can't remember. I had a reason when I made this. I had a reason why I put that quote in here. But I have since forgotten what it was. Because it took like 2 weeks. I edited this in about over a 3-week period. Okay, here we go. Segment 3. Replayability PvP needs direct and full focus. This thread was started by One Shot, and One Shot says... yeah, that's kind of it. But anyway, he says, as a follow-up push to my last attempt before I quit RoR last year, One Shot quit. And gotta remember, One Shot Bombling, same guy. But he quit. I mean, how did the server survive that? I don't know. I don't know how the server survived. Anyway, isn't it about time that the replayability of the main play loops are getting the massive and real focus they desperately need? Sounds so dramatic, but what he's talking about is the main play loops is simply OpenRVR. And I think it is true that the majority of the players who play the game spend the majority of their time in OpenRVR, but that is not the only main play loop, and it's not the only means to play the game. But before I go down that road, One Shot goes on to trash ranked SCs, the Garden of Quaff, or the Garden of Quark, as I already called it. Always called it both Karaza Karak and Karak 8 Peaks and the Land of the Dead. Okay, ranked SCs were fun. I think the format is, it's to say the very least, it's certainly seen better days, but it's all but dead. The Garden of Quap. The Garden of Quark, whatever, man. I don't think they ever got the coding. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I believe. That I don't think they ever got the coding on that to work in the manner that they really wanted it to, and people just sort of stopped going there. So the Garden of Quark is dead. And then you have Karaza Karak and Karak 8 Peaks. Those are, of course, the two dwarf cities, and it was a grand opening. I remember the day that these places opened up, and I did film. I copied footage of Karak 8 Peaks, published it a couple of times, and they were really nice. The cities were really nice, but it is true that for the most part they just kind of sit there unused, and a lot could go on there, but nothing really does. Okay, and then Land of the Dead. I disagree about Land of the Dead. The only drawback, the only criticism against Land of the Dead that I have is that it's underutilized. It isn't open often enough. Land of the Dead has massive potential to be a battleground at different times of the day or night and for different size groups. It doesn't always have to be this large scale, war bands chasing each other down and typically fighting over the same terrain. Land of the Dead is criminally underutilized, but content wise I think it's it is a fantastic place. One of the great, just in the mechanics itself, one of the great successes in the life of the server. They just need to open it up more. Now, One Shot's building to a point here which follows sort of a logical trail. He's going to use the Lost Veil as a stepping stone to make his point about OpenRVR, and he says before admitting the Lost Veil was actually good content, and in the thread I think he does sort of admit that the Lost Veil was well done. He goes on to say that because the content of the Lost Veil was so well done, you can therefore improve OpenRVR, and that's where I think the argument kind of breaks down to a degree, because PvE, a PvE zone and an OpenRVR zone are two different animals. Now, I admit, I've said it many times, I'm not a coder, but I do know how to read, and as the base mechanic of a PvE zone is a party goes in, and if they go to point A, this happens. Then they move on, they go to point B, this other thing happens. Then they go to point C, and still something else happens. Until you get to the final point where you face the big boss, because it's there, because it's supposed to be there, it's always going to be there, and she's always going to act, or he or she, whatever, man, they're always going to act the same way because they're coded that way. Okay, OpenRVR, the coding mechanics don't work like that, because in a zone like Land of the Dead or a zone like Prague, you can have multiple war bands running around, you can have individuals running around, 6-man groups, whatever. The fights can take place anywhere, between any number of people, using any number of abilities, and there's a lot of chaos to it, right? It's chaotic in nature. And so to say, like as he says here, because you did such a fine job with the Lost Veil, you can therefore fix RVR and SCs. That doesn't progress logically, because again, PvE is a linear progression where OpenRVR and scenarios are not. That's why I put this question up here. Can they do that? Sure, I guess, if they so desire. The devs over the years have proven that they're capable of walking and chewing chewing gum at the same time, or taking on more than one task, or being able to successfully put in fixes here, there, and everywhere if they so desire. But if they do, if the devs function as One Shot suggests here, that because they did Lost Veil so well, they can fix PvE, there's one thing that's true: even if they make the effort, no matter what the devs do, someone will complain about it. And that's a little different point than where I was leading a moment ago, but I think it all just sort of stacks up. Okay, yes, the devs did a good job on Lost Veil. It doesn't necessarily mean that they can automatically translate over to OpenRVR, although over time they have done well with certain aspects of OpenRVR. Scenarios are in an incredibly horrid kind of shape right now, I believe, but I've talked about that already twice. But it doesn't matter. Even though all that's true, it's also true. That's the statement to make. Even though all that is true, it is also true that it doesn't matter what the devs do. No matter what they do, the herd mentality will be slow to change, and people will complain. Who do the devs listen to? I've asked that question a number of times. When it comes to complaints, our suggestions, our motivations to fix or twink or twiddle with a particular aspect of the game, who do the devs actually listen to? It isn't the player base at large. I can tell you that. I don't know who it is exactly. Whether it's just limited to themselves, or if there's some other, nefarious underground group inside the server, like the old God, what was the name of that group? The Realm Champions, that Realm Champion program, which again wasn't one of the best things that the server ever did. But who do they really listen to? I don't know. But people are talking about the population base, how it keeps shrinking and all that, and and therefore the problems are beyond being fixed, simply because too much time has gone by and too many players have left. Okay. Along this line, I found this comment in the RoR Discord. The game is advertised as the best PvP MMO, but the peak player count happened because of a PvE dungeon released. Okay. What I would say about that is new content always brings players into the game. I remember when Conqueror Gear came out. I was playing when Conqueror Gear came out, and Conqueror Gear was the highest level of gear that you could get at that time. But when it was released, the population base on the server doubled, at least, overnight. Doubled, if not, not even higher. And it eventually faded out again. Once everybody got their Conqueror Gear, they went to playing other stuff. And then when the next suit came, the next set of gear came out, everybody came back to get the new set of gear. So new content does that. New content always brings people in. And I don't think you can fault the game and the way it's advertised simply because a bunch of people came in to do the PvE dungeon, because they weren't really coming in to do the PvE dungeon. They were coming in to get the Dark Promise gear, because new gear will bring players back to the server. That's just the way it is. But the bounce that you get doesn't last. But it also can't be held against the server because it was a bounce in regard to a PvE dungeon. It doesn't matter. It was just new content and a new set of armor. That's what brings people in. All right, the next comment is he's the same guy in the RL Discord is saying, you are kind of forced to do PvE now if you want to be on equal footing with PvE players when it comes to RVR. I don't think that's true. When I leveled my Witch Elf to renown rank 80, I never even got through Gunbad. I didn't have any of the PvE gear. I had the scenario weapons, but I did it strictly with RVR based gear and weapons, and I don't think I suffered that much. I mean, I would have liked to have had some of the Sentinel pieces when I was leveling, but I don't think it detracted that much from the experience that I wasn't able to get all that stuff. So I disagree with this, that you are forced to do PvE if you want to be on equal footing. I just don't think that's true. You're not forced to do anything, but you can if you want to. That's the whole concept. That's the underlying precept of the whole concept of having multiple avenues of approach and multiple ways for people to play the game. Is it so hard to understand? There should be alternatives, and people should be able to decide what path to take. Well, that's the whole point. Okay, so these two statements are kind of incongruous, but that's the whole point. There should be alternatives, and people should be able to decide what path to take. But you don't cement that as part of the experience on the server by strictly adhering to one format of the game at the expense of all the others. There's been too much of that over the time of the server. My position on this has always been that Return of Reckoning, there is a 3-tier system to play the game. Open RVR and the lakes, which would include forts and cities. Scenarios, which I think is one of the best means to level and enjoy the game. Scenarios have always been my favorite form of content. And then there's PvE, and all three of them in my mind have always been equal in what players can do to advance their particular character, their particular tune. They've all been equal in what they offer a player. And the fact that they're different is only a positive, right? Now it says here, this was an answer that the guy got on, again, in the RoR Discord. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. It's hard when people don't make any sense. But as I said, the community is a big reason why the server probably has a 5% new player retention. This was someone's response to the comment I had up a few minutes ago. And this guy's talking about the toxicity levels, I suppose, the accommodation levels, the response of particular segments of the player base when it comes to finding out that somebody's doing PvE. Oh my God, you're doing PvE. But I don't think that the triad, I don't think PvE has much, if anything, to do with new player retention. I think that's because of the OpenRVR system that has been introduced of late, which includes, of course, our focuses on, rather by design or by default, that focuses on this whole blob content and this whole meta being driven by basically one thing and one thing only, which is get kills, get kills, get kills, and don't die doing it, so that your KDR on the God Almighty kill board never suffers, right? And so the type of play that forces, or perhaps forces is not the right word, but the type of play that supports, encourages, is the huge warbands running around and beating up on lesser numbers, beating up on small groups, and even chasing a solo player, a whole warband or two, chasing one guy out into the PvE area just to try to make sure they get the kill. I spent a whole segment talking about that on one of the earlier podcasts, about that notion of, chasing somebody out into the PvE area. 24 guys. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But if you want to talk about why new players have such a low retention rate, or why we have such a low retention rate with new players, that's the primary reason, is that the manner in which you're almost, I'm going to say that you're almost forced to play because of the meta that has been instituted. The blob mentality of just chasing down kills at the expense of everything else. That, to me, is the biggest drawback and the biggest weakness that we have in the system right now. And I've been on the server since 2016, and I know it wasn't always this way. And yes, it's true that the low player count currently is a bit restrictive in what can be done to address the issue, but something needs to be done, and a PvE zone with a new set of armor, in my opinion, is a step in the right direction. And so I disagree with One Shot's initial premise that the Lost Veil and all this other stuff were all just huge waste of time. You need to put all of your time into OpenRVR. I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true. And if you can get numbers up by introducing a new PvE zone, then by all means do it. Okay, moving on to our next segment. Here's how the lightning round works. We take various forum posts and address them in a quick and humorous manner. In other words, we poke fun at stuff. And all in the name of just having a good time. You guys remember fun, right?
And here we go.
Okay, up first, here's someone asking the musical question, Buff Magus when?
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Here's a guy promoting solo roaming witch hunter. I feel very strong.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better.
In the spirit of offering help to the player base, someone put up an advertisement for the best online products ever at Call Null.
I'd better call Null.
Whoever Null is. Anyway, call now and you will receive.
You'll also get the mixing bowl set, ice cream trays, an inflatable chair, glow sticks, a shower tent, fridge magnets, an ironing board with shirt rack, an electronic Sudoku puzzle generator, language translator, mouse pad, and a mascot outfit.
But wait! There's more!
As you can see, there's even an offer to use Null for live chat. Only a chat channel especially crafted by and for Return of Reckoning players.
It's new! It's outrageous! It's darling insulted. I'm Sultan. Ever been insulted? Sure you have. No, you haven't.
Oh, here's a guy asking the age-old question, why are some people so toxic in this game?
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Here's a new player looking for class. Well, if he's looking for class, he came to the wrong place. However, in regard to choosing a class to play, try and find something fun and remember what happens if you pick the wrong one.
He chose poorly.
Someone actually advertising their OnlyFans page.
No, 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 no.
Foxhound. Sometimes these jokes write themselves.
Looking for someone seasoned and well marinated? Call us now. Silver Fox Connections.
Someone asking how to understand if it is magic. Well, you know, sometimes you just have to believe.
Have to believe we are magic.
Shut up, bitch!
Someone asking about morale pump parties, and specifically, what is the purpose of morale pump parties? When I saw this thread, I couldn't believe my luck.
No, 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 no.
I should feel bad, but I don't. Okay, this one is entitled Friss to Friss,
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
with follow-up chat of get her. I don't know what the guy's trying to say, but that'll come up again a little bit. Here is a brave soul returning to the game after some period of absence. Apparently, this guy forgot about the emotional and mental progression associated with the first time around.
We've been waiting for you all summer, and we're so glad you're finally here.
Hello. I'm here to call you... Whatever, man.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
I wonder why Gitu here even posted this thread. Yeah, that would explain it. But hey, maybe Gitu is actually from another planet and just speaking his native tongue.
Good. Latu. Barada. Nikto.
That's a great old classic movie if you've never seen it. Anyway, next, a little content warning. Content warning for the next bit. So, you have been warned. Why do we have to stay silent? Because there are rules, somewhere, that apply to the players. Sometimes. But mostly to avoid this.
And I will rain down an ungodly fucking firestorm upon you. You're gonna have to call the fucking United Nations and get a fucking binding resolution to keep me from fucking destroying you. I am talking scorched earth, motherfucker. I will massacre you. I will fuck you up.
I'll probably get in trouble for that one. Alright, where Maripool skill will be fixed.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Man, Jules Winfield never disappoints. Okay, but where, when, I suppose the guy's saying, will Maripool skill be fixed?
How
How about never? How about never?
Ha! Gay!
Someone asking, are there any plans to revive ranked scenario play? This question has come up before, and the conversations usually go like this.
I just don't think you're the right fit for the kind of work we're doing here, so I've requested to have you transferred. This conversation's over. You're dismissed.
Right, but
This is the end of the conversation.
All right, Zippet.
Here's someone asking, please make DPS Doc fun again.
Yes, yes.
And the response will probably be,
No!
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 but docs are fun, so I'm not sure what the concern actually is. Here's someone promoting the virtues of engineer solo roaming.
You think a bad day is gonna stop me? Ha! Do you think a bad day is gonna stop me? Ha! I eat bad days for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Do you understand me?
Someone asking about Russian Quest translations. I don't know. Seems fishy to me. We've had spies on the server before.
Intruder alert! Red spies in the base.
Red spies in the base? These guys are not our legitimate contacts. These guys are KGB Special Branch. All right, I'm an American agent.
And?
He's a spy!
All right, that's enough of that. Oh no, wait. Okay, wait. One more.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take it away!
I cracked myself up. All right, up next, someone advertising the Organizer.
Yes, it's just that simple.
Yes, make all your orcs look pretty. All right. And finally, not to be outdone by the engineer solo roaming, someone put up a Night of the Blazing Sun solo roaming video. Oh wait, this isn't just someone. This is my own flesh and blood. Okay, that's all the time we have for the lightning round today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and moving on to the next topic.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.